The Galactic Council had spent centuries cataloging every known dangerous planet in the galaxy. From blazing infernos to frozen wastelands, these planets were listed as Class D hazard zones, deadly, uninhabitable, and absolutely off-limits to all Council personnel. But today, one of these planets, labeled X7-Zeta, was about to get some very unconventional visitors. Enter humans. Tasked with studying the perilous landscape, humans were expected to follow every protocol to the letter: advanced biosuits, strict monitoring, and immediate evacuation at the first sign of danger. The alien supervisors prepared, confident the humans would need constant hand-holding. But when the camera feeds flickered to life, the aliens were greeted with a sight they couldn't comprehend. Humans lounging by a crackling campfire, passing around mugs of coffee, and laughing as if they were on a holiday retreat. What are they doing?" one alien supervisor stammered, his tentacles twitching with alarm. Another alien leaned closer to the monitor, eyes wide in disbelief. "Is that fire? Are they cooking something? This is a high-risk zone." "Humans," muttered the lead alien supervisor, trying to make sense of the bizarre display, "are supposed to be cautious, fragile even. And they're relaxing on one of the most dangerous planets in the galaxy." The monitor zoomed in, showing a human roasting marshmallows on a stick, unfazed by the environment around them. The Galactic Council had prepared for everything, except humans turning their most hostile world into a weekend getaway. In the bustling headquarters of the Galactic Council, alien supervisors gathered around a central monitor displaying live footage from Planet X7-Zeta. The room hummed with the soft beeps of monitoring equipment and the quiet murmurs of alien scientists who, moments ago, had been confident in the seriousness of their mission briefings. Now, however, confusion was settling over the room. Ravak, a veteran supervisor with over 50 planetary missions to his name, watched the monitor in disbelief. His tendrils quivered as he observed the human team setting up camp, their movements unhurried, their expressions relaxed. A few of them were spreading out blankets, others rummaging through packs to bring out what appeared to be food. "Are we sure this is the right planet?" Ravak asked, his voice betraying an edge of unease. Alva, his younger assistant, glanced at the planet's coordinates and confirmed. "Yes, sir. X7-Zeta. Hostile climate, acidic rain, and hazardous magnetic fluctuations. It's all here in the report." He paused, as if hesitant to even ask, "But they seem unaffected." Ravak's gaze narrowed. "It's not possible. X7-Zeta has been deemed uninhabitable for a reason. We followed every protocol, set up alarms, and even gave them detailed instructions on how to survive." The monitor displayed one human casually stretching out on a large boulder, taking in the bleak, stormy horizon as if it were a scenic view from a resort. Another human tossed a rock at the ground, testing it, then nodded approvingly. They seemed comfortable, as if they'd done this 1,000 times before. A younger alien officer nearby scratched his head, glancing between his colleagues with wide eyes. "Why aren't they panicking? The acid levels in the air alone should be alarming, and yet they're acting as if this is some sort of recreational exercise." Alva leaned in closer to Ravak. "Maybe it's part of their adaptability. They're known for it, sir. I've read that humans enjoy something called camping. They actually leave their comfortable habitats to sleep outdoors on purpose." Ravak's gaze shot to his assistant, incredulous. "Outdoors? Without reinforced shielding or environmental controls? What are they hoping to achieve by putting themselves in harm's way deliberately?" I think they enjoy it, sir. It's an activity like a leisure ritual." Alva paused, struggling to find a way to explain this unfathomable behavior. "It's something they do to relax." Ravak let out an exasperated sigh. "Relax? On a death world?" Just then, the camera feed zoomed in on the humans gathered around a small, glowing fire. They had ignited a makeshift flame right there in the open, warming their hands as they laughed and chatted. One of them passed a thermos around, steam rising from it, as they took turns sipping whatever concoction was inside. "Are they drinking something hot?" an alien muttered from across the room, squinting at the image. Ravak held a tentacle to his forehead. "Incredible. We supplied them with carefully rationed hydration packs, emergency sustenance, and fully sealed environment suits. They're equipped with everything they need to survive. And yet, he gestured toward the monitor, they're ignoring it all. Another supervisor, a particularly cautious one named Varlith, interjected. We should send an emergency transmission, remind them of the protocols. Perhaps they've simply forgotten? Alva, looking conflicted, shook his head. Sir, they don't seem disoriented or confused. They're perfectly aware of their surroundings. They just don't see any threat. Ravak couldn't comprehend it. He had spent his entire career training personnel on survival tactics, meticulously enforcing rules designed to minimize risk. The idea that anyone would ignore those rules willingly was beyond him. All right, I'll speak to them, Ravak finally relented, stepping up to the central control console. He activated the communication link, his face appearing on a small screen near the human's campsite. Human team leader, Ravak began, trying to project authority. This is Supervisor Ravak of the Galactic Council. You've been given strict protocols for navigating Planet X7-Zeta, a Class D hazard zone. It is imperative that you adhere to all safety measures immediately. The humans glanced over at the screen, giving Ravak an amused wave. Their team leader, Marcus, stepped forward, looking perfectly at ease. Hey, Ravak, Marcus greeted with a grin, clearly unfazed. Everything's fine here. Beautiful scenery you guys have got, by the way. Kinda reminds me of Earth's rockier bits. Little sulfur in the air just makes it more authentic, right? Ravak struggled to respond, finally managing. Human team leader, this is no environment for casual relaxation. We must insist that you utilize your equipment and remain vigilant. Marcus gave an exaggerated thumbs up. Got it. Equipment check. Marshmallows check. Cocoa check. Tarps up too, so we're all set for whatever comes our way. Marshmallows? Ravak repeated, stunned. Those aren't listed in the emergency supplies. I failed to see how they are relevant to survival. One of the humans raised a stick, revealing a fluffy, white marshmallow impaled on the end, which they proceeded to roast over the open flame. Come on, Ravak, it's a classic camping essential, Marcus explained. Can't survive without a few creature comforts. Ravak blinked. Comfort? This is supposed to be a controlled exploration of hostile terrain, not a social gathering. Another human piped up from behind Marcus, shouting cheerfully. Hey, Ravak, you're missing out. Nothing like a marshmallow roast to bring people together on a hostile world. Ravak stared, at a loss for words, as the humans continued their strange ritual, laughing and enjoying their surroundings without the slightest hint of fear. Finally, Alva, who had been watching with fascination, murmured to Ravak, Maybe they know something we don't. Perhaps there's more to their adaptability than we realized. Ravak shook his head, muttering to himself. Or maybe, he said, staring at the humans with a mixture of exasperation and awe, they're simply impossible to comprehend. Despite the alien supervisors' mounting concerns, the humans seemed oblivious, perfectly content with their improvised campsite on the hostile world of X7-Zeta. While the alien monitors flashed red with warnings of chemical storms and seismic tremors, the humans acted as though they were at a lakeside retreat back on Earth. Marcus, the human team leader, gathered his team around the campfire, giving each of them a grin. All right, folks, welcome to Planet X7-Zeta. It's rugged, unforgiving, and apparently our home for the weekend. The humans chuckled, passing around a thermos of coffee. Got the coffee brewing. Anyone for a cup? Marcus asked, holding out the thermos with a smile. Back in the Galactic Council headquarters, Ravak and the alien supervisors were speechless. Ravak couldn't believe what he was seeing. They're drinking coffee. On that planet, does their species feel no fear at all? Another human, Sarah, took a sip from her steaming mug and sighed contentedly. You know, she mused, looking at the barren, windswept horizon, this view's not half bad. Reminds me of that one hiking trip in Death Valley. Ravak's tentacles twitched in frustration as he muttered to himself, Death Valley. They're comparing this hellscape to one of their natural landscapes. One of the newer alien supervisors, Alva, shook his head slowly. Sir, I've read a few human reports. They seem to take pleasure in exploring dangerous environments voluntarily. It's a concept they call adventure. They intentionally place themselves in danger for leisure. Rivak's face scrunched in confusion. And what purpose does this serve? Surely they could have remained in safe habitats. What do they gain by endangering themselves? Alva shrugged. I'm not entirely sure, sir. Something about personal growth and enjoyment. He squinted at the monitor as the humans pulled out something that looked like thin sticks with fluffy white objects attached to them. Rivak watched in horror as Marcus cheerfully held the object over the campfire. Now, don't tell me. They're going to eat whatever that thing is? A voice piped up from behind them, a more senior alien supervisor who had seen the humans in action before. It's called a marshmallow, Rivak. They're roasting it for enjoyment. Rivak looked incredulous. On a toxic world, they're preparing snacks? This has gone beyond strange. We need to remind them of the dangers present on X7-Zeta. Rivak activated the communication channel, his tone insistent. Human team leader Marcus, this is Rivak. I must remind you of the documented hazards on Planet X7-Zeta. Your actions do not align with standard safety protocols. Please remember the volatile atmosphere and high acidity levels in the air. Marcus responded with a friendly wave, appearing thoroughly unbothered by the transmission. Thanks for the heads up, Rivak. We've got the tarp up to keep the acid rain off us, and we've been avoiding the weird purple plants you mentioned in the brief, all under control. Rivak let out a low groan of exasperation. That's not enough. This environment is still unsuitable for such, he struggled for the word, leisurely behavior. Sarah, overhearing the conversation, leaned over and quipped, Hey, Rivak, next time you're on a break, you should join us for a campfire. Nothing like roasted marshmallows and a hot drink to make even the most hostile planet feel cozy. Rivak's mouth opened, closed, then opened again, words failing him as he tried to process the human's nonchalant attitude toward what he considered a hostile environment. He looked over at Alva, utterly baffled. I don't think they understand what they're dealing with. Another human, Jackson, wandered over with a grin, dusting off his hands. Hey team, just scoped out the area. Found a nice spot for our tents with a bit of cover from the wind. No big threats, just a couple of odd lizards with glow-in-the-dark fangs. Seem harmless enough. Rivak's eyes bulged as he spluttered. Glow-in-the-dark fangs? That creature is listed as a Class C hazard. It secretes a venom capable of corroding metal. Jackson shrugged. It wandered off when I gave it a bit of space. No need to make a fuss. We'll steer clear. Rivak's head was spinning. He couldn't comprehend their casual disregard for danger. To the humans, the death world was just another camping spot, a place to explore, relax, and share laughs. Alva studied his superior's reaction and offered a tentative observation. Sir, it seems humans have a different approach to danger. Perhaps they see it as manageable, something to be tamed. Rivak stared at the monitor, watching the humans laugh and settle into their campsite. Unbelievable. These creatures navigate life-threatening situations as if they're minor inconveniences. Meanwhile, one of the humans had pulled out an old-fashioned paper map, pointing out landmarks on X7-Zeta with his fingers. Another pulled out a small analog compass, a tool the aliens hadn't seen used in centuries. What is that? Rivak asked, pointing to the compass. It's primitive. Surely they brought advanced navigation equipment. Alva replied, I believe they call it a compass. They seem to favor some of their simpler tools, especially on these missions. Backup, perhaps, if technology fails? Rivak shook his head in dismay. Unbelievable. They have the most advanced guidance systems, and they rely on a spinning needle. Marcus raised his thermos to the alien camera, smiling as he took another sip of coffee. Don't worry, Rivak. We humans have been getting lost and finding our way back for centuries. A few weird plants and storms aren't going to faze us. Rivak could only watch, bewildered, as the humans continued with their camp setup. As the sun began to set on Planet X7-Zeta, casting an eerie glow across the rugged landscape, the humans leaned back, toasted marshmallows over the fire, and chatted about their plans for the next day's adventure. For the alien supervisors, this behavior bordered on lunacy. But as Rivak continued to observe, he couldn't help but feel an odd respect growing within him, a begrudging admiration for the human spirit, their resilience, and perhaps most incomprehensible of all, their ability to find joy in the most inhospitable places. Ravak let out a sigh, resigning himself to a long night of observation. "These humans," he muttered, "may very well be the strangest life forms in the galaxy." As night fell on Planet X7-Zeta, the alien supervisors leaned forward, eyes glued to the monitors, convinced that the humans would finally realize the seriousness of their situation. The planet's hazardous conditions were about to reach their peak, and the Galactic Council had prepared countless protocols for this phase. But as usual, the humans were 2 steps ahead, in a completely different direction. It began with a faint, acidic drizzle, the first sign of an incoming storm that was anything but ordinary. Alarms blared in the alien headquarters as red warning lights flashed across the screens. "Alert! Acid rain levels reaching hazardous intensity," Ravak announced urgently, broadcasting directly to the human campsite. "Human team, we strongly advise immediate evacuation to your secure zones." In response, Marcus, the human team leader, gave a cheerful thumbs up. "Gotcha, Ravak. Thanks for the heads up. We'll deploy the tarp." With practiced ease, he and his team pulled a large, weatherproof tarp over the campsite, creating a makeshift shelter. Sarah, one of the team members, chuckled as she peered out from under the tarp, watching the droplets sizzle harmlessly on the material. "Feels like camping back home in the Pacific Northwest," she joked, leaning back with her coffee. Ravak sputtered at the screen. "This is not comparable to any home environment. That rain has a pH level capable of eroding stone in minutes." Unbothered, Marcus grinned. "Well, this tarp's holding up pretty well. You'd be amazed at how long these things last." He took a sip of his coffee, completely at ease as the alien supervisors panicked. Before the council could even begin to wrap their minds around this response, a low growl echoed from the surrounding cliffs. Ravak immediately recognized the sound from the planet's wildlife records, one of X7, Zeta's nocturnal predators, a creature known for its territorial aggression and lethal venom. "Team Leader Marcus," Ravak's voice sounded even more urgent, "there is a hostile life form approaching your position. Immediate retreat is advised. Repeat, immediate retreat." Marcus glanced toward the edge of the campsite where a large, 6-legged creature with bioluminescent fangs was cautiously approaching, its scales glistening in the dim light. The humans looked over, but instead of panicking, Marcus simply reached into his bag, pulled out a marshmallow on a stick, and extended it toward the creature. The alien supervisors gasped as the predator sniffed the marshmallow, paused, and then cautiously took a step back. The creature gave a wary glance at the humans, as if sizing them up, before wandering off into the darkness. Ravak's tentacles quivered in shock. "What just happened? How did you manage to deter a Class C predator with a marshmallow?" Marcus shrugged. "Guess it didn't have a taste for sweets," he said with a grin. The other humans laughed, passing around another thermos of coffee, and continued their evening as if nothing had happened. Alva leaned closer to Ravak, speaking in a hushed tone. "Sir, it seems they possess a form of unspoken confidence. Perhaps their unpredictable behavior is calculated?" Ravak shook his head, exasperated. "Calculated? They're using camping supplies against hazardous life forms. This is not calculation, it's recklessness." But the humans weren't done yet. As the night grew darker, a strange magnetic anomaly began to intensify across the planet. The monitors in the Council's control room flickered erratically as the magnetic fields disrupted their systems. Alien technology, renowned for its precision, was struggling to keep up with the fluctuating energy. "Attention, human team," Ravak said, his voice edged with urgency. "A magnetic disturbance is affecting your equipment. We recommend switching to backup systems and remaining within close proximity of your secure zone." Marcus took out a paper map and a small, old-fashioned compass, holding them up to the alien drone camera with a wink. "Already on it, Ravak. Sometimes low-tech is the best tech." Ravak gaped at the sight of the ancient Earth tools. "You're relying on analog navigation in the midst of an extreme magnetic anomaly? That is absurdly primitive. Why not activate the advanced guidance systems we provided?" Marcus laughed. "Because when tech goes haywire, this little needle never lets us down." He gave the compass a gentle tap. "Besides, we humans have a saying, when in doubt, go analog." Alva leaned into Ravak, whispering, Sir, I'm beginning to suspect that their simplicity might be an intentional backup plan. Ravak shook his head in disbelief. You mean to tell me that they willingly forego reliable technology in favor of something that belongs in a museum? Before Alva could respond, another human spoke up. Looks like the magnetic storm is hitting its peak. Anyone up for a quick stargazing session while the interference lasts? The humans laughed, gathering near the cliff's edge to admire the strange, flickering patterns in the sky, which pulsed with ethereal colors. The galactic monitors beeped with alerts as the magnetic storm intensified, but the humans remained undeterred, enchanted by the shifting light show above. Ravak felt a wave of panic rise within him. They're admiring the view, he said, his voice barely a whisper. This is the very storm capable of disrupting planetary systems. They should be seeking shelter, not observing. Alva observed the human's expressions, a peculiar look crossing his face. Sir, they're acting as though the danger itself is a part of their experience here. They aren't just enduring, they're enjoying. Ravak rubbed his temples, clearly overwhelmed. Enjoying chaos? He struggled to comprehend. To the Council, chaos was the enemy of survival, a variable that needed constant control. But here were humans, thriving in the very midst of it, treating this hostile environment as though it were a playground. Suddenly the winds picked up, and thunder rolled across the sky. The acid rain intensified, sending the alien monitors into overdrive. Ravak glanced at the live feed, expecting to see the humans scrambling for cover. But instead, he found Marcus grinning as he huddled under the tarp with his teammates, passing around mugs of cocoa. One of the humans raised their mug to the camera, laughing. Here's to another perfect evening on X7-Zeta. Definitely going to remember this one. Back at the Council, Ravak couldn't contain his frustration any longer. Are they toasting the storm? This is insanity. Alva's eyes sparkled with a strange admiration. It's as if they're fearless, sir. Or perhaps they just see fear differently than we do. Ravak slumped in his chair, defeated, watching the humans laugh in the face of the storm. His years of training, his reliance on protocols, and his entire understanding of survival seemed utterly inadequate in the presence of these peculiar beings. They didn't just endure chaos, they seemed to revel in it. As the storm began to pass, the humans emerged from under the tarp, shaking off droplets and stretching as if they had simply endured a mild drizzle. That was one for the books, Marcus announced, stretching his arms. Nothing like a good storm to make you appreciate clear skies. Ravak stared at the screen, speechless. His carefully organized approach to planetary exploration had just been unraveled by a group of humans who treated X7-Zeta like a camping trip. They're impossible, he murmured. I've never seen any species regard danger as casually as they do. Alva nodded. Perhaps, sir, they understand something about survival that we don't. Maybe for them, survival isn't just about caution, but about finding resilience through experience. Ravak shook his head, a faint, bemused smile forming on his face. Or maybe, he said quietly, they're simply fearless. As the alien supervisors watched the humans continue their carefree adventure on the death world, a seed of respect, and perhaps even awe, began to grow among the Council. For better or worse, these humans had rewritten the rules of survival right before their eyes. By morning, the storm had passed, leaving the landscape eerily quiet. Planet X7, Zeta's rugged terrain, usually a grim sight to most species, seemed refreshed under the soft light of the two distant suns. Yet, despite the calm, the Galactic Council's control room was anything but peaceful. Alien supervisors and analysts swarmed the screens, anxiously reviewing the footage of the humans' night on the planet, each of them more perplexed than the last. Ravak, the lead supervisor, sat in stunned silence, replaying clips from the humans' night. Scenes of them casually roasting marshmallows in an acid storm, laughing in the face of monstrous creatures, and navigating a magnetic anomaly with a compass had left him questioning not only his own sanity, but the very nature of survival. Sir? Alva ventured cautiously, his eyes fixed on Ravak's bewildered expression. Perhaps we underestimated them. Ravak exhaled a long, drawn-out breath. Underestimated, he muttered, glancing at Alva. These humans are behaving as if hazard is their natural habitat. It's as if danger emboldens them. Alva nodded slowly. Yes, sir, they don't seem to see threats the way we do. It's like they have an entirely different response to chaos. Another alien supervisor, Varlith, approached, her face a mix of disbelief and fascination. Ravak, I've been reviewing their physiological responses. They were calm throughout the entire storm, even during the acid rain, the predator encounter, and the magnetic interference. Their heart rates barely spiked. Ravak leaned back, processing this new information. Are you suggesting that they aren't capable of fear? Varlith shook her head. No, they feel fear, but not in the way we do. It doesn't paralyze them. It seems to motivate them. Alva raised an eyebrow, his voice tinged with awe. They're not just resilient, sir. They thrive in unpredictability. It's as if they seek out these conditions to challenge themselves. Ravak remained silent, his mind swirling. He had always approached survival from a meticulous, cautious standpoint. Every protocol, every contingency, had been crafted to protect against the slightest hint of danger. But here were these humans, treating a Class D death world as a playground. He finally spoke, almost to himself. They've defied every assumption we held about sentient life. They're unbound by the instincts that govern most species. Alva tilted his head thoughtfully. Perhaps it's a product of their evolution. Humans come from a world with harsh environments. They likely adapted to see challenge not as something to fear, but as something to conquer. Ravak frowned, still struggling with the concept. But to face danger with such ease, it's unnatural. No species should be so comfortable with risk. Varlith let out a quiet laugh, earning a surprised glance from Ravak. Perhaps it's we who are unnatural, she said. We've built our entire civilization around avoidance, designing every technology, every policy to keep danger at bay. Humans, on the other hand, seem to see it as an essential part of life. Ravak went silent, her words echoing in his mind. He had never considered that there could be value in embracing uncertainty. He thought back to the humans' carefree attitudes, their laughter in the storm, their casual manner with one another even in life-threatening circumstances. What if their strength came from something deeper than mere resilience? Alva broke the silence, his voice low and contemplative. I wonder if our own species might benefit from such an approach. What could we learn by facing challenges directly, rather than building walls around ourselves? Ravak's eyes narrowed, caught in a rare moment of introspection. Are you suggesting that we should imitate their behavior? That we too should disregard our survival protocols and walk into danger willingly? Alva quickly shook his head. Not exactly, sir, but perhaps we could learn to be less afraid, to see challenges as opportunities rather than threats. Ravak gazed back at the monitor, watching the humans laugh as they packed up their gear, oblivious to the existential crisis they had sparked among their alien observers. Just then, a voice crackled over the intercom. It was Marcus, the human team leader, casually addressing the council as he adjusted his pack. Morning, Council, Marcus said, his voice cheerful. We had a fantastic night. Pretty wild storm, but the view was worth it. I mean, where else would you get sky colors like that? Ravak's hand tightened on the console as he responded, his voice laced with restrained disbelief. Human team leader Marcus, your survival on Planet X7-Zeta is nothing short of miraculous. Do you not realize the risks you've taken? Marcus laughed. Oh, believe me, we're aware. But it's not so bad once you get used to it. Kind of exhilarating, really. Reminds us why we signed up for these missions in the first place. Ravak frowned, baffled. You enjoy this? Marcus's voice softened, becoming almost reflective. Danger isn't something to fear, Ravak. It's part of life. Keeps us sharp. And the truth is, if we avoided every risk, we'd miss out on all the best parts. Ravak, along with the other alien supervisors, listened in silence as Marcus continued. Look, I know it sounds crazy to you, but facing the unknown, it's what pushes us forward. It's how we grow, how we adapt. If you don't step into the unknown, you never learn what you're truly capable of. Ravak felt a strange, stirring sense of wonder as Marcus's words sunk in. He glanced at Alva, who was listening intently, eyes gleaming with newfound respect. Varlith nodded thoughtfully. They see adversity as a teacher, she murmured, more to herself than anyone. Perhaps we have been too cautious. Ravak took a deep breath, his perspective shifting with each passing second. You're suggesting that we reevaluate our protocols? That we abandon generations of carefully constructed survival strategies? Marcus chuckled over the intercom. Hey, I'm not saying throw caution to the wind, but maybe, just maybe, you don't have to let caution hold you back. Sometimes, the only way to know your limits is to push past them. Ravak stared at the monitor, watching the humans prepare to move on to their next destination, laughing and exchanging stories as if they hadn't just survived a night on a hostile world. He spoke to his team in a voice barely above a whisper, as if he was admitting something he'd only just realized. Perhaps there is wisdom in their madness. In confronting the unknown, they have found a strength that we can only begin to understand. Alva nodded, his face solemn. Yes, sir, and maybe, just maybe, we've been limiting ourselves by trying to avoid all risk. Ravak felt a strange sensation, a mixture of awe, admiration, and a touch of envy. For so long he had believed his protocols were the pinnacle of survival tactics, but now, watching the humans leave, he wondered if they held the answer to something even more profound. Marcus's voice broke through his thoughts one last time. Thanks for the support, Council. Next time you guys should join us. We'll save some marshmallows for you. Ravak blinked, surprised by the offer, then allowed a small, tentative smile. Perhaps we will, human team leader. Perhaps we will. As the humans disappeared from the monitor, their laughter lingering in the air, Ravak turned to Alva and Varlith, his voice filled with a new sense of purpose. I believe it's time for us to reevaluate our protocols. There is much we can learn from them. The aliens nodded in agreement, their expressions tinged with something that, a day ago, none of them would have believed possible, the desire to see what lay beyond their carefully constructed walls of caution. And as they began drafting new protocols, adding human resilience study as a required course for all survival training, Ravak couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. The next day, with their gear packed and their spirits high, the human team set off deeper into Planet X7-Zeta's uncharted terrain. The Galactic Council, still in awe from the previous day's events, continued monitoring them closely. After a long night of debate, they had agreed to observe rather than intervene, allowing the humans to lead the expedition. A sense of excitement and trepidation filled the control room. Ravak, who had once been the humans' most skeptical observer, found himself glued to the screen, fascinated by their bold approach. We're witnessing something unprecedented. Let's see just how far their adaptability can take them, he muttered, almost as if cheering for them. Alva and Varlith exchanged glances, nodding in agreement. They are certainly pushing our understanding of resilience, Alva replied, with a hint of admiration. Stage 1, a river of toxic acid. The humans soon encountered a natural barrier, a wide river of steaming toxic acid, its surface bubbling ominously. Its banks were jagged and crumbling, clearly eroded by the lethal substance. The Council's sensors flagged it as highly hazardous, and warnings blared across the monitors. Alert, human team, a toxic substance has been detected ahead. You must turn back immediately. Ravak's voice echoed over the humans' comms. Marcus squinted at the river, then glanced up at the drone camera with an amused expression. Thanks for the heads up, Ravak, but we didn't come all this way to turn back at a little obstacle. We'll just have to get creative. Ravak's mouth dropped open as Marcus began discussing potential solutions with his team. Within moments, the humans had roped together pieces of their equipment, creating a makeshift bridge. They laid a series of stabilizing poles across the river, testing each step before crossing cautiously, one at a time. Alva gasped as they watched the humans make their way over the acid river, balancing carefully and encouraging each other. They're doing it. They're actually crossing the toxic river with minimal equipment. Ravak shook his head in disbelief, a small smile tugging at his mouth. They have the audacity to turn a Class D hazard into a simple team-building exercise. Stage 2, sudden rockfall and seismic tremors. Just as they reached the other side, the ground began to tremble. Ravak's sensors detected seismic activity beneath the surface, an aftershock from last night's magnetic storm. Rocks and debris started to tumble from the cliffs above, and the humans barely had time to react. Human team, seismic instability detected. Seek immediate shelter. Rivak's voice sounded tense as he watched the rocks begin to cascade down the cliffs. The humans looked up, quickly analyzing their options. Marcus, ever calm, barked orders to his team. "Everyone, to the overhang! Sarah, Jackson, grab that tarp!" In seconds, the humans had ducked beneath a sturdy rock overhang, covering themselves with the tarp as they crouched close together. Boulders crashed around them, but the makeshift shelter held. Alva, gripping his console, exhaled in relief as the tremors subsided. They used a tarp and a rock ledge to avoid being crushed by debris. Do they ever stop adapting? Varlith nodded, eyes wide. It's like they see each problem as just another step in the journey. Stage 3, an encounter with alien predators. As they continued their journey, the humans entered a dense, thorny forest, an area known for hosting X7-Zeta's most fearsome predators. Their movement alerted a pack of large, bioluminescent creatures with razor-sharp claws, who emerged from the shadows, encircling the humans. Rivak, watching with his heart pounding, activated the emergency transmission. "Human team, those creatures are highly aggressive and territorial. You must exit the area at once." But Marcus and his team held their ground. Instead of fleeing, Marcus calmly instructed his team to slowly back away, maintaining eye contact with the creatures. With steady, slow movements, they made themselves appear larger, spreading out to avoid looking like easy prey. One of the creatures snarled but hesitated, seemingly uncertain. Marcus held out his arm, signaling his team to move slowly, non-threateningly. The predators watched the humans, wary, before retreating back into the forest. Rivak blinked, his voice barely a whisper. "They just negotiated with predators?" Alva let out a long breath. "No, sir, they adapted. Again, they observed, responded calmly, and projected confidence." Stage 4, the final challenge, a ravine with a deadly electric storm. The humans continued until they reached a towering ravine with steep cliffs and unstable terrain. To make matters worse, lightning crackled ominously across the sky, an electric storm sweeping toward them. Sparks flickered across the jagged cliffside, illuminating their path in flashes of eerie light. Rivak's voice, tense with urgency, filled the humans' comms. "Human team, there is a high-voltage electrical storm approaching. The atmosphere here is highly conductive. You must find cover immediately." Marcus assessed the situation quickly. "We can't stay here or we'll get caught. We're going to have to rappel down and take shelter under the ledge." The team worked swiftly, fastening ropes to stable rocks and lowering themselves down the cliff face as the storm grew closer. Lightning arced overhead, flashing dangerously close as they climbed. At one point, a bolt of electricity struck mere inches from them, sending a jolt through the rock. Sarah lost her grip for a moment, dangling from the edge. "Hang on, Sarah," Jackson shouted, securing her rope and pulling her back up. The team climbed in tandem, helping each other descend to the shelter below just before the full storm hit. Alva leaned forward, awestruck. They didn't just survive, they did it together. Their cohesion, their teamwork, it's unlike anything I've ever seen. Rivak nodded, his tone reverent. They don't merely endure danger, they transform it into a shared experience, each relying on the other to overcome. After the storm, a moment of reflection. As the storm passed, the humans reached a plateau overlooking the vast landscape of X7-Zeta, panting and exhausted but triumphant. They stood together, arms around one another, gazing at the planet's wild beauty. Marcus let out a long sigh, laughing breathlessly. "We did it, team. We conquered this world together." The other humans laughed, high-fiving and hugging, their relief palpable. They were bruised, dusty but alive, and in that moment, they looked invincible. Rivak watched, a new understanding dawning within him. They thrive because they're never alone. Each human knows they can rely on the others. Their strength is in their unity. Alva, eyes still fixed on the screen, whispered, "Sir, they're more than adaptable. They're extraordinary. Their resilience comes from each other." Varlith leaned back, a thoughtful expression on her face. They've shown us that survival isn't about avoiding danger. It's about embracing it, adapting as a collective. Ravak, in awe, finally admitted to himself, and to his team, what he had never thought possible. Humans, they possess a strength we could never have imagined. They see adversity not as a threat, but as a test. And they don't just survive, they prevail. As the humans stood on the cliff, taking in the strange beauty of Planet X7-Zeta, Marcus gave the drone camera a wave, his voice cheerful despite the ordeal. "Council, I think we've seen enough for today. Thanks for sticking with us. Hope you enjoyed the adventure." Ravak, his heart full of newfound respect, responded warmly. "Thank you, human team. You have shown us that resilience lies not in avoiding challenges, but in facing them head-on, with courage, adaptability, and unity." Marcus grinned. "Glad we could teach you a thing or two. Now, if you ever need advice on surviving a death world, you know who to call." As the transmission ended, Ravak looked around the control room, his fellow supervisors sharing in the moment of quiet reflection. "We have much to learn from them," he said softly. "Perhaps the galaxy's true strength lies in embracing the unknown, in finding courage through each other." And as he turned off the monitor, he knew that this was only the beginning. The Galactic Council's approach to survival and life had changed forever, inspired by the spirit of humanity that refused to bow to fear. As the humans made their way back to the extraction point, Planet X7, Zeta's wild landscape seemed almost calm after the intense challenges they'd faced. Exhausted but exhilarated, they moved with a relaxed confidence, having proven to themselves and their alien observers that they could overcome any adversity. In the Galactic Council's control room, Ravak, Alva, and the other supervisors sat quietly, digesting everything they had witnessed. Ravak's tentacles were clasped in front of him as he stared at the now-still screen, replaying moments of the human's journey in his mind. "I never would have believed it," he murmured, almost to himself. "We designed protocols to shield ourselves from every conceivable threat, and yet these humans, they thrived where we would have faltered." Alva nodded thoughtfully. "They didn't just survive, sir. They bonded, adapted, and even enjoyed the experience. It's as though danger enhances their sense of unity." Ravak looked at Alva, his tone softening. "Perhaps we were wrong, Alva. We've spent so long fearing the unknown, trying to control every aspect of existence. But these humans, they showed us that there is a different path, one that embraces the unknown with open arms, seeing it as a means of growth rather than something to avoid." Varlith, who had observed the mission with growing respect, chimed in, "It's more than that, Ravak. They embody a resilience that comes from trust in each other. Their strength lies not just in their ability to face danger, but in facing it together." Ravak let her words sink in, feeling the profound truth resonate within him. "Then perhaps," he said, "we should consider incorporating some of their methods into our own practices. Not their reckless disregard for caution," he added quickly, "but their ability to adapt as a collective, to face challenges not with fear, but with courage and camaraderie." Alva's eyes lit up. "Are you suggesting we revise our survival protocols, sir? That we embrace a more human approach?" Ravak nodded slowly, a smile touching his face for the first time in a long while. "Yes, Alva, I am. I think it's time for the Galactic Council to expand our understanding of survival. We need to learn from these humans, observe their resilience, their adaptability, and most importantly, their unity." Alva glanced at the humans, who were now laughing and sharing stories as they made their way toward their shuttle. "I never thought I'd say this," he said with a grin, "but I think we could use a bit more humanity in our protocols." Varlith chuckled. "Who would have thought that the very species we once saw as fragile would teach us the greatest lesson in resilience?" Just then, Marcus's voice crackled over the intercom. "Council, I'm happy to report that our expedition was a huge success. The team's intact, spirits are high, and we've managed to document plenty of survival tips for any of you looking to plan a nice weekend on a death world." Ravak laughed, a sound he couldn't remember making before. "Your survival tactics were unorthodox, human team leader, but effective. I must admit, we have learned much from watching you." Glad to be of service, Marcus replied, grinning. You know, if you ever decide to join us for some intergalactic camping, we'll save a spot around the fire. Ravak shook his head in disbelief, still smiling. Perhaps one day, human team leader. Until then, know that you have earned our deepest respect. The Galactic Council will not forget what you've taught us. Marcus nodded, his tone becoming more thoughtful. Survival isn't just about making it through the day, Ravak. It's about who you stand with, the risks you're willing to take, and the memories you make along the way. That's what makes it worthwhile. The transmission ended, and the control room fell silent, each alien supervisor lost in thought. Ravak stood, taking a deep breath as he addressed his team. We've witnessed a new kind of resilience today. Let's begin revising our protocols. Effective immediately, we will incorporate human resilience training into our survival programs. It's time we open our minds to what survival truly means. Varlith and Alva exchanged glances, nodding in agreement. Agreed, sir. Their strength isn't just physical, it's their mindset, their camaraderie. Ravak looked around at his team, pride evident in his expression. And who knows, maybe one day, we'll join them. For now, let's take the first step toward understanding. We've learned that resilience isn't just about avoiding risks. It's about facing them with those you trust. Let's bring a little of that spirit into our own lives. Alva, who had admired the humans from the start, smiled broadly. Human resilience training. I have a feeling it will be enlightening for all of us. And as Ravak and the others began their work, they felt a newfound sense of purpose, knowing that the lessons learned from Planet X7-Zeta were more than survival techniques. They were a call to live boldly, to embrace the unknown, and perhaps to see the universe not as something to fear, but as an adventure waiting to be discovered. Far away, the humans boarded their shuttle, waving cheerfully at the alien drones as they ascended. And in that moment, a silent bond formed between them and the Galactic Council, a bond forged in respect, understanding, and the shared knowledge that survival, in the end, was far more than merely staying alive. Months passed since the humans' expedition to Planet X7-Zeta, but the impact of their journey continued to ripple through the Galactic Council's ranks. In every corner of the Council's headquarters, aliens whispered about the humans' fearless approach to survival. Protocol manuals were amended, training programs revised, and a new course, Human Resilience Training, was added to the core curriculum for all galactic explorers. Ravak, now the appointed leader of this new training initiative, stood at the front of a packed auditorium, ready to address an assembly of alien trainees. The once rigid supervisor now carried himself with a relaxed confidence, inspired by the humans' indomitable spirit. Today, Ravak began, we embark on a new chapter in our understanding of survival. His voice echoed through the hall, the trainees hanging on his every word. The humans showed us that survival is not merely about caution or control, but about adaptability, courage, and above all, unity. They taught us that even the harshest environments can be conquered, not with fear, but with resilience and camaraderie. He gestured to a new holographic image projected behind him. A scene from X7-Zeta, showing the human team laughing together around a campfire in the midst of acid storms and towering cliffs. The trainees exchanged glances, many of them astonished by the sheer audacity and joy on the humans' faces. From this day forward, Ravak continued, the Council encourages exploration not only with caution, but with a willingness to face the unknown head-on, together. Let the spirit of resilience be your guide, just as it is for the humans. Alva, sitting among the senior council members, nodded approvingly, a hint of pride in his eyes. He leaned over to Varlith, whispering, who would have thought, the Council taking inspiration from a species we once deemed fragile? Varlith smirked. It's ironic, isn't it? And yet it feels right. There's a power in their approach, a defiance against the impossible that we could all benefit from. As the trainees were dismissed, each carrying a new respect for humanity, Ravak turned to Alva and Varlith. I never thought I'd say this, he admitted, but I look forward to the day we can collaborate with the humans again, perhaps even join them in the field. Alva raised an eyebrow, grinning. So, you're saying you'd be willing to set foot on another death world with them? Ravak chuckled, his eyes gleaming with excitement. "If they bring the marshmallows, I'll bring the tarp." Far from the Council's headquarters, a message arrived on Earth, delivered to Marcus and his team from the Galactic Council itself. The note was simple, yet brimming with respect and admiration. "To the human expeditionary team, on behalf of the Galactic Council, we extend our deepest gratitude and respect for the lessons you have imparted to us. Your courage, unity, and resilience in the face of the unknown have inspired a new era of exploration among our people. We look forward to further collaborations, and perhaps one day to sharing a campfire with you on another uncharted world. Sincerely, Supervisor Ravak and the Galactic Council." Marcus laughed as he read the message, holding it up to his team. "Looks like we've made quite the impression. Who knew marshmallows and coffee would change the galaxy?" Sarah grinned. "Guess we're just that good." Jackson added, "So, where to next? Think the Council's ready for a desert world? Or maybe a frozen tundra? I hear they have some uncharted ice planets." Marcus chuckled, nodding. "Wherever they need us. And hey, next time we'll make sure they're around the fire with us." As they shared a round of high fives, a new chapter of galactic exploration began, one that bridged the gap between humans and aliens, united by shared adventures and an unyielding spirit. And as the stars stretched out before them, both humans and aliens felt ready to face whatever lay beyond, together. With their expedition to Planet X7-Zeta now a legendary tale across the Galactic Council and beyond, Marcus and his team returned to Earth, welcomed as heroes not just by humans, but by a delegation of alien representatives. The Council had sent emissaries to Earth for a formal recognition ceremony, an unprecedented event. Ravak, now a pivotal figure in the Council's new approach to resilience, had personally led the delegation. Standing before a crowd of humans and aliens alike, he presented Marcus with an honorary title, Galactic Pathfinder. As Ravak placed the insignia in Marcus's hands, he spoke with warmth and respect that had once seemed unimaginable. "To Marcus and the human team who taught us that survival is a journey best faced together, with laughter, courage, and the spirit of adventure. We are honored to stand alongside you as fellow explorers of the unknown." The crowd erupted in applause, and Marcus gave a humble nod, exchanging a smile with Ravak, a moment that symbolized a new bond between humanity and the Galactic Council. Months later, the Galactic Council's first joint mission with humans. Several months after the ceremony, the Council initiated its first joint mission with humans, an expedition to a distant ice world, known for its storms of frozen nitrogen and towering crystal caverns. Ravak, Alva, Varlith, and a team of alien explorers were now preparing to brave the icy terrain with none other than Marcus's team. As they disembarked on the frigid, glistening surface, Ravak pulled his cloak tighter against the chill, looking over at Marcus, who was grinning as he unpacked a set of metal rods and a handful of small foil-wrapped packets. "Marcus, what are those?" Ravak asked, bewildered. "Hot cocoa packs and some instant heaters," Marcus replied with a grin. "Nothing like a warm drink to keep the cold at bay. Care to try some, Ravak?" Ravak looked at him, then gave a slow nod, accepting the packet. He followed Marcus's instructions to activate the heater and took a tentative sip of the hot chocolate, his eyes widening at the rich, unfamiliar flavor. This is delightful," he said, his voice filled with genuine surprise. Alva, watching them with a smile, leaned over to Varlith. "Looks like they're already breaking in the new supervisor to human traditions." The Iceworld expedition soon took on a familiar rhythm, with humans and aliens working together in ways the Council had never anticipated. As they navigated the harsh landscape, they laughed, shared stories, and faced the challenges together, drawing strength from one another. The future of galactic exploration. Back on Earth, a plaque was unveiled in honor of the mission to X7-Zeta, bearing the words that had now become the guiding mantra for the Council and human explorers alike. Survival is a journey best faced together. The bond between humans and the Galactic Council grew stronger with each new venture. Inspired by humanity's unique perspective on resilience and adaptability, the Council opened more joint training programs, inviting humans to share their experiences and techniques. And humans, in turn, were eager to explore new worlds, forging friendships across the stars and bringing their indomitable spirit to every mission. Ravak, once a cautious rule follower, found himself becoming a champion for this new, unified approach. Under his guidance, the Galactic Council transformed, welcoming a future where survival wasn't about merely avoiding danger, but embracing it with courage, camaraderie, and just a little bit of marshmallow roasting along the way. And so, with humans and aliens working together, the galaxy opened itself to new possibilities, a place where even the harshest planets could be explored, conquered, and cherished. For in the end, it wasn't just about survival, it was about discovering that no challenge was too great when faced side by side, with a hot drink, a shared laugh, and the spirit of adventure lighting the way forward.